Hello, SHRM family. Welcome to another edition of the Workplace Tech Spotlight. My name is Guillermo Corea, Managing Director of SHRM Labs, SHRM's Workplace Innovation Lab. I'm your host for this series where we shine a spotlight on some of the most interesting future of work topics, innovators, and disruptive technologies. Before we get started, just a couple of announcements. How many of you out there have always been looking for that platform, that allows you to look at all your HR tech needs? If you're a SHRM member out there, in case you didn't know, in January, we soft launched the WorkplaceTech community. Think of this as the TripAdvisor for HR tech, where you can come in, see product reviews, as well as look at all the ratings on the different products from your colleagues. This is only available to SHRM members. So if you're a SHRM member out there, please visit workplacetechcommunity.shrm.org. Also, for those of you watching on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, please share this live stream and tag SHRM. You can also use the hashtags SHRM Labs and WorkplaceTech. So today we're going to discuss another topic that touches on employee recruitment and retention, one of the top issues that HR is currently dealing with. So by 2030, the oldest members of Generation Z, those currently between the ages of 20 and 25, will make up 8.3% of the workforce, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. They are the most ethnically and racially diverse generation, and they say they want that reflected in the workplace. They also want good pay and a sense of purpose. 40% of them plan to leave their employers within 2 years, according to a study of Deloitte. And by comparison, only 24% of millennials said the same thing. Generation Z, or Gen Z, as most of you people out there know it, is more demanding than past workforce generations. 26% of the respondents say that that having a sense of purpose at work is also very, very important. And this is becoming a big problem for legacy employers who are not adapting to the needs of the next generation of employees, especially when you take into consideration that 10,000 baby boomers are retiring each day. 75 million baby boomers are expected to retire by 2030. That's only 7 years away. So I think it's safe to say that a battle is brewing to recruit and retain the next generation of talent. So joining us to talk about this topic today is Cyrus Beschloss, CEO and founder of Generation Lab. Hey, Cyrus, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the stage. So before we get going here, can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and Generation Lab?
Yeah, thank you so much, Guillermo. Super excited. Background on Generation Lab. We exist because there are a lot of caricatures, and you all know this better than we do, about young people. And we think that those sorts of caricatures, they work their way into some pretty gigantic decisions, whether that's how companies build products for young people, and in the context of what we're talking about, how we are able to build a workplace for the next generation, a workplace for young people. So we think that the best antidote to those sorts of caricatures and broad brushes is a steady stream of data out from young people out to the institutions that make policy about them.
Fantastic. So let's get right into it, right? You heard me mention some of the statistics around Gen Z, right? Have you seen similar results, right, with the work that Generation Lab has been doing over the past few years? And, do HR departments have the right story around Gen Z? What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, no, we sit on a gold mine. We're fortunate. We not to hawk this too hard. We've built over the last 5 years the largest respondent frame of young people in America. So we've got about 2 million folks between the ages of 13 to 34 in our polling infrastructure that we use to do all of our research. We are seeing similar things. Guillermo, the thing that I want to highlight is even just the scope of that study, that Deloitte study, for example. We see a lot of studies about young workers, about the Gen Z worker, the Gen Z workforce. They're trying to do too much. They're trying to focus too broadly, is what we see. How many times have you seen, the sort of study that follows the structure of, quote unquote, understanding the Gen Z worker? Here's the magic bullet as to how to hire the next generation worker. The problem is that those articles, they they imply, and however well intentioned, they imply that your strategy for, let's say, like a female web developer in the Pacific Northwest should be the same as your strategy as far as recruitment and retention goes as a male investment banker in New York City. That's one of the key problems that we're seeing is a lot of overly broad research as opposed to narrowly tailored based on who it is you're trying to recruit.
Fantastic. So, it sounds to me like, with this generation, right, you really need to be able to, I hate to put it in this way, but to be able to slice and dice your approach for each person, right? It can't just be a general approach as it has been taken in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. And like we have a super duper, and I've used this phrase with you before, manifesto when it comes to, any of these sorts of considerations of hiring young people and, recruiting and retaining top talent, not just with Gen Z, but then whatever comes after Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and just young people in general, the next generation. And that manifesto is very much grounded in the idea that you have to identify the specific workers that you're talking about. What skill set are you talking about? What do you have a specific focus as far as gender, race, geography? Get specific. And then you can build your strategy as to how you're going to recruit and retain based on that. Obviously, I don't need to tell that to anybody on the live stream. You're doing that already, I'm sure. But that's the big thing that we really try to underscore. We invite you to be specific.
Fantastic. So what do you think is the difference between, based on the research that you guys have been doing, what's the difference between, the previous generations and Gen Z, what, especially around the workplace expectations, especially when they're joining a new company? What is it that they're asking about, about these companies?
Yeah. One of the big things that we've seen so far that we highlighted, actually, there was a study we did with Axios in 2021 that first hinted at this. And at that point, we didn't realize it, but ended up kind of being semi groundbreaking as far as we came out and found that the vast majority of Gen Z, of young people, they wanted to be in the office when the prevailing assumption, again, across the board, overly broad, was that they all wanted to work remotely, that this was this new privilege that people had, that they could work from their bedrooms. Okay. We came out and we found that no, actually the vast majority, because they were missing out on community. They were missing out on networking, on upward ascension opportunities because they were working from home, which was, again, a thing very rare in generations past. So what we see is like this devout interest in working in person as opposed to previous generations, which again, that wouldn't have even been a consideration before. But the one thing that I will say is like, it depends. It's hard to say like, here's a trend overall with Gen Z or with this generation in general. Our focus, as you know, Guillermo, like over the last few years has been, okay, we want to take this gigantic network of respondents that we have in this generation, and we want to build a pipeline between companies and those workers that they care about recruiting and retaining. So how can we get, if I'm Apple, great, maybe I want to hire, the best iOS developers, and maybe I want to do a little bit better as far as, let's say, racial or gender representation. Okay, I want the best talent in that specific bracket to come to me and not to go to Microsoft or to go to Meta or whoever that might be. We invite them to actually go ahead and build that exact audience, and we'll go and get data for them on that specific audience. They could say female iOS developers in the Southeastern United States who know how to program these 5 languages. Great. We'll go and pull a statistically significant sample of those folks and tell Apple or whoever that subscriber might be, this is what the folks that you said that you care about, this is what they say they care about, what they want to see in the workplace, and what they think about you compared to your direct competitors. So sorry, it was the complete word spill, but long story short, yeah, getting back to the ideas you mentioned of slicing and dicing.
Yeah. So what do you think are some of the what are some of the trends that you're seeing out there that stand out about Gen Z? Like for example, you mentioned the Axios, right? study that you guys did, what are some of the highlights that you can provide to our audience there in regards to Gen Z?
Yeah. All right. So let's speak about some specific data points that we actually have ready for you. We, as I mentioned, we built this data terminal between our respondents and companies. And so we actually took a generalized slice of the data. So not any specific subscribers, audience that they built or anything. That's their own audience. We wouldn't touch that. But we just took a generalized slice of the data to share with everybody watching. It's 1,000 interviews with outgoing college students and recent grads generally. And keep in mind, like if I were subscribing to this terminal, I would be specifying exactly who I want to study. But a couple of the fascinating findings. Okay. Anybody on this call, on this video, anybody recruiting right now using, think to yourself, Glassdoor? Am I using ZipRecruiter? Am I using Career Builder, to name a few? Okay. In this study, we found that, I want to make sure I'm getting this exactly right based on the data, a very, 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 very slim minority, of young people are using any of those platforms to look for jobs. And we might be spending a ton of money advertising and having a presence on those job sites. Indeed, LinkedIn, Handshake took up roughly 80 to 90% of the share of where folks were looking for jobs. That struck me because, again, these are other mainstream job sites looking for people looking for jobs. That was one thing that jumped out at me, and can definitely mention a few more, but don't want to keep blabbing.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that you guys have unfortunately, we could probably like spend hours here talking about all the data that you guys have. So, how do you think companies can make sure that they're speaking the right language about work to Gen Z and meeting them where they are?
I love the question. The first thing, two quick things. One thing is first reflex, speak like you would broadly. The big thing that we end up sort of having to say with different clients across industries is basically, don't feel like you need to change your voice too much. We always, you don't need to be Steve Buscemi holding a skateboard, saying, hello, fellow kids, how are you youths doing today? Just speak like you do. That's number one. But number two, as far as messaging goes specifically and engagement techniques, again, we think it's extremely, extremely, extremely easy to build a strategy. And I know I'm not directly giving an answer to your question as far as like what folks should say, but hope I'm giving you a sense of how to find out what you should say. Define your specific audience. Am I speaking to young Hispanic men in the Midwest who are interested in finance? Okay. If that's who you're trying to speak to, then you can define that audience. You can do a bit of research. We have obviously tools to do that. And you can go out and build a strategy pretty easily, as long as you know exactly who it is you want to talk to. If you want to talk to Gen Z broadly, it's a tough one.
So it sounds to me like you're saying that, what HR departments, especially as you're thinking about trying to approach Gen Z, right? There's so much data out there. It's available, right? So you should be able to like grab that data. First of all, define the exact audience that you're looking for, right? But then grab that data, analyze it, and figure out how to reach that audience in the way that they want to be reached. Because the data is out there. So I think key message for all you HR folks out there is that and this is part of becoming a digitally savvy HR professional in the future, right? Is for HR professionals need to start being, in a way, a data analyst, right? Having that skill set, because as you're trying to approach these new generations, the data's out there. It's just a matter of being able to grab it, interpret it, and then move forward, right?
Exactly. And again, I know that I'm out here saying like, hey, go interview a statistically significant sample of this very narrow slice of worker that you're looking to hire, that you have a premium on. And you're like, yeah, Cyrus, great. I'd love that. I'd love $1 trillion. But that's what we've been working on for however many years, is to build that type of pipeline that makes it quick, customizable, and like actually affordable.
Fantastic. So are there any resources that our audience watching this might find helpful?
Absolutely. We put together a nice little basically demo of this type of dashboard that has some generalized learnings based on 1,000 interviews with outgoing college students broadly on some of the data points that we collect as part of this this terminal. I'll leave the URL with you all, but it's we have it at generationlab.org/terminal, and there'll be a lot of nuggets in there.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, we have a little bit of time left here. So last question for you. What do you think is one big trend about Gen Z that will manifest itself in 2023?
Man, I want to ask you that. I just want to put that right back to you, and we'll do that. We'll do that offline. The big thing that I'm going to watch for really carefully is based on what we were talking about before, based on hopping back and forth between office and home. As people came into the office, launched in the workforce during the pandemic, I'm going to be really curious to see, now that tons of workforces, the vast majority, are either fully in person, doing some level of hybrid. I'm really curious now that there is that option where young people, frankly, are going to settle. They came of age in a completely different climate as far as COVID went, and I'm going to be curious to see where the chips fall. How many people are wanting to stay home? Are there specific pockets of Gen Z that say, "Hey, I want to work from home," versus working in person? I think we're going to see some change, but I think that we will see some level of settling in the coming months.
Actually, you know what? That would be a great topic of discussion, for another one of these segments. Or do you guys have any plans in the future for looking? Because that's really interesting, right? I mean, now that I think it's safe to say that we're finally getting over the whole COVID pandemic and everything, right? I think it's safe to say that now we're going to start seeing like those new generations begin to settle, right? So where are they going to end up? Is that something that you guys are going to be looking at?
100%. Okay. Top of the list of data that we're looking at. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, obviously you and I will be in touch, and I foresee us being able to do another segment related to just that topic. So, unfortunately, hey, that's all the time we have for today. Cyrus, thank you so much for being here. Love talking with you about Gen Z and how important they are to the future of talent, right? Especially because of all the retirement that's going on from the other generations, right? So hope and for the audience out there, I hope you enjoyed this conversation and you found it very useful. If you want more information on Generation Lab, please visit them at generationlab.org. Once again, thank you all for tuning into the SHRM Labs Workplace Tech Spotlight. If you enjoyed this live stream, please share it using hashtags SHRM Labs, Workplace Tech, and SHRM. Visit us at shrmlabs.com to stay up to date. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend, everyone.